right, everyone. Time for actually something a little bit special. It's actually going to be a two for one song title poem. And this is only just because I wrote this in a series to kind of express some personal feelings at a time. And one I said one discography wasn't very long, so it won't take that long to read. So I'll just figure I will read the next one after it, then make two separate videos for the other two that remain. Um, I'm actually not going to tell you too much about what artists I actually use because that's part of the mystery. So I've been kind of vaguely talked about this in the past, and now I'm finally getting around to actually making everything. So hopefully everything will be up to your liking. So I just call this series A Touch of Deserved Darkness. A lot of people just kind of turned their backs on me when I first wrote this. So it's almost like they always say, "Oh yeah, we love this stuff," but yet they never comment or anything. So, but in terms, if you were to separate this first poem from everything else, it's called A Heavy Aircraft. I'm not doing too well emotionally, as most of my friends have left me behind in a fog, and while the normal life stands firmly, I'm dazed and confused to why I have such low contact with such good people, making me wonder if I did something wrong in the communication breakdown. And said is part of some penance. And said given by the once proud group, so no one has to be the heartbreaker. And even if somebody has an excuse, I'm the fool in the rain, waiting for the sunshine to give me some peace. No matter what kind of day I've experienced, is that in the evenings just after sundown, I think about the good and bad times the people shared with me at random times as a sign of trust, as everyone needs ample light and darkness to provide a little balance as we all sail through the ocean called life with a few too many large waves and thick clouds across endless skies make it hard. So bring it on home with sparse directions towards dry lands and in the light where the brightest times never truly fade away. For most of my life, I didn't feel very much alive. In my time of dying, I frequently search for the tiniest trace of glory under my nose, and if I had the privilege, it said to be in the presence of incredible souls, such joy was quickly trampled underfoot like a bug to reside amongst the deepest of shadows. Even after many years of tea for one, from no one wanting to join me for a little time to ease my grief while easing some of their own, it's hard letting go of memories with friends because you shook me right down to the core. It said, reaching reserves I never fathomed. And when the levee breaks, it said, with the odd surge of emotions ready to consume everything in its path to share a whole lot of love that may sadly never reach those of the past, and I'll be sick again with loneliness, it said, as my doctor and grim medicine. No matter who provides the vocals for melodies of life, the song remains the same for so many lost in the plane of existence, with the dancing days having the wrong feet said to preserve the very limited moment where tension melts away and no one walks it said through the out through the outdoor without being slammed by those going the other direction. But how many more times does such a door have to hit the innocent square in the face before the wearing and tearing of time causes everything to unravel? To those who haven't forgotten about me, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But for the rest who have taken too much time to form a simple hello, your time is going to come where you too will experience the sorrows of isolation and the desire for a smile will eat away at your soul, said soul, and the cruel turns of fate, it said, may give no quarter, so that everyone, it said, it said, it said, has fallen into the greatest depths of despair, leaving a void, it said, for compassion to step in. Yet, what is and what should never be comes to pass with a profuse amount of silence, and the houses of the holy may not be enough to take the sting of the lengthy wait for contact. It said it's to be made, and mentally you can't be down by the seaside listening to soft waves lapping over the sand because your emotions said have taken a night flight to prevent a good rest. Sure, everyone makes it through dark times in their own way, but not seeing the light for very long is unhealthy. It said in learning how to heal. It said in learning how to heal improves the stairway to heaven has many turns and weak spots, ideal for people to fall through and doubt their next celebration day will be anything special, and the much needed boost to remove the gloom. It said, then that's the way we have to adapt to the human condition. I'm sure that I made people uncomfortable with this chance ramble, but I meant every word, on top of the dismal detail with more than 10 years gone since I left my original state to move over the hills and far away to find a better life. And yet I don't have much to show for my efforts as it said as a small group and it said as a small attempt to grow up. However, I'm going to crawl as far and long as possible so that maybe if someone horrible squashes me once more, the hook of fate will pull me in the right direction. So, yeah, I wrote that a couple years ago, right around the start of the pandemic, and just couldn't really keep in contact with people. It's like you kind of keep saying, "Hey, how are you feeling? Hey, how are you feeling?" And then you don't get anything for weeks. It's like, and then when you finally do see them again, you really don't want to have anything to do with them. It's like, why should I trust you anymore? Like I asked everyone and said at one point, if I had to share something bad, no one said anything. And said I have every right to be disgusted with you. So take a moment to process everything and stand by for the next poem. All right, everyone, welcome back. Or if you've skipped to the timestamp I previously said put in the description, um, this will be the second of the poem, second poem. And when I actually was looking up this thing, I said I had to find some way to describe it, and all I could just say is that the source material is called Exactly. The Summertime Blues have done a number on a lot of people, as despite a chance to remove all the dread from last year, the damage has yet to be fully reversed as the miracle cure can't keep up with apathy and stupidity thrown into the detour said back to a piece of assumed normalcy because everyone can't walk the endless wire stretched out over the abyss of uncertainty, said, with intense shaking to cause those in need of guidance to fall into the unknown, and they must sing new songs to manage grief. One thing that really hits people where it hurts is when a success story is covered for too long while times of tragedy aren't given enough respect, and the sparks that made life bearable have sadly faded into the shadows of the past. It said, drowned by the pathetic trend, it said of the weak to further tarnish paradise. Reality isn't for everyone, because if you're not wealthy, you have to settle for a pathetic bargain bin existence that is said that is said put into, then taken out. It said, and it's not enough to continue, and so with little reward and good people to share the triumphs with, because how can you do it alone? It said, make something out of a pile of scraps other deemed were nothing in an attempt to find their imminence to keep their eminence fronts alive without showing the pain of humanity as a warning that it's never, it said, so pure and easy understanding our world. Things used to be good, but the land of hope and glory went dry from too many drinkers of the very sweet, said, nectar of untapped potential that is now so full of murky water that it's hard to remember the various colors that comes from a sunrise after a violent sunstorm in which everything is still intact. Like the once raging winds and deluge was nothing more than a sloppy puff of air. Yet such wizardry is good at keeping most of the population in the dark, with the lucky few asking, is it in my head that things aren't magical? And for decent people, we're not going to take it. So when the battle is far from being over, it said, falling for the trickery of society is easier than more people think, because it forms many disguises to convince the unwary things aren't so bad. But this is just a mirror door to conceal the way out of the labyrinth of confusion created by those in the city who only seek to expand their territory into areas unable to support the hassles of their modern era. However, if the kids are alright with whatever new wonders, they said, what can anyone do to change unless someone's coming with yet another bit of wisdom to divert humanity in a new direction, while silently saying, said, see my way or you're nothing in tomorrow's world, said, and don't look away from glory as there's no other options for salvation. Now that I'm older, I like nightmares because the realm of dreams, it said, because it said, can get you through anything. It said, after days that were a strange mix of good, bad, it said, to once the time of rest. And I'm a man who often sleeps near a pen and paper to record details on the amazing journey through places locked away in bizarre places in my mind so that I can summon a small distraction in the real world. So when I've had enough pages that are waiting to be filled with whatever fragments of dreams still happily remain at my side. Sometimes I take a trip to the top of a mountain where I can see for miles in all directions, and such beauty makes me wonder why I end up on this abnormal rock, it said in the ether that makes up the still mysterious, universe where anything could happen, and our world has had 2,000 years to find enlightenment. But there are still those who are saying it's not true science and religion can exist. Yeah. But there are those who say it's not true that science and religion can exist in the same place, and it's so sad about us as a species that the more intelligent discoveries, the dumber we appear to grow in through overall denial, or through dangerous competition for the next new thing, for shaping the future, and some with the skills of a pinball wizard to achieve the insanely high score required to unlock a mystery about life and break the news, it said, in what little piece that hasn't had the chance to work its magic, it said, and smash the mirror. It said, when the uninvited stranger looking back has lost their brilliance from not knowing what to do about their existence as the ball and chain gets heavier. It's just going through life when tomorrow isn't guaranteed and no one knows how much sand still remains in the dreaded hourglass to warn people that the sensation of life could end at any random moment, making people like myself, it said, see how many friends have come and gone over the years, and who truly remembers me when it said, I don't even know myself despite trying new things to improve various parts of my life and character. Yet, it said, I don't think I could take another tricky day without finding a good reason to smile. It said, and while I know there's a doctor to deal with most of the serious problems in the world, some people are helpless dancers caught in the chaos waiting for miracles that don't come. So I know this poem is pretty dark. It said, but who are you to understand the inner workings that are the building blocks instead for the human condition? Because I'm a man who rarely feels like an adult, as people meant to provide mental support have stopped believing me and suggest I do all the dirty jobs for finding my way while shunning any happiness that I brought others. And do you think it's right to keep trying to find a place to call my own when most days said said I am in the sea of misery, said from not knowing ample compassion, preventing me from being the seeker of joy, said and surrender my limited humanity. If you think you can make a change in my life, I welcome it because I've had too many friends leave me behind. It said, and how do you think I feel when I can't reach you after multiple times or even a simple hello and to find out you found happiness or never escaped the teenage wasteland craved from the endless cycle of adults who didn't care to say it's your turn to do great things for the world. It said, who also suffers and would be proud to say somebody saved me, it said, because they never gave up hope. Once again, I stepped into the darker side of writing, and you can cry if you want. However, I needed a way to tell others that my isolation isn't the best, and simple acts of kindness, one at a time, leaves our souls wanting so much more, like seeing someone on Christmas morning with a room full of family to spread the joy and bestow presents. It said, when you're almost out in the street because the struggles of others fail to meet expectations, and you've got nothing to prove to anyone to find comfort. Said, however, where can anyone go as the chalice of your life force, and said, will be but an empty glass, never finding relief. To those reading or listening to this, if you stand by me, I'll support you in the darkest times, so the rest of the journey, I said, to self-discovery won't be so difficult. Until misery, the song is over, and will never surrender, because I've been away from my friends and have beheld the wonders of the future. So, yeah. And one thing I can actually say about actually the concept of dreams is that you never know what you might actually remember, from very long ago. Because I actually have this vague memory of a dream from when I was like maybe 4 or 5 about being in this massive room that I think was supposed to be some kind of aquarium, but I couldn't actually process, like water. So I was essentially just kind of floating around there, kind of like in some kind of blimp or something. And, I saw others in there. And then at one point, there was this kind of Loch Ness monster thing that was there. And I just went up and touched it. Like, okay, it's just some kind of floaty device. So, and that just kind of always just made me kind of wonder, what else could be remembered after so long. So I tried to have the other two poems posted sometime after the 4th of July. So everyone take care and have a good one.